Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Culture Spread, our fun weekly movie and streaming news show. Let's talk big news.
You got it.
James Spader to reprise his role as Ultron for Marvel's Vision series starring Paul Bettany. And now, I guess everything is old and new again now with Marvel. We're seeing a bit of a trend with Marvel now. This is very exciting news, Jace. I like it. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does for me too. And this news just dropped me hours ago. It's great. I think Ultron, as much people may have had criticism of the Age of Ultron, James Spader's performance was so unique as a villain. It was so interesting. And the fact that where Vision is, this is Vision having to deal with his daddy issues now, right? Because that's what Vision is. Remember from Infinity War when they were talking about removing the yellow gem, the mind gem, whatever. And he was saying, look, Vision is made up of, and this was Bruce Banner saying it, me, Tony Stark, Ultron, and now, but we have a white Vision who is a complete creation by Wanda. It's a smart move, and you're right. They're going back and is it a coincidence that we get RDJ announced and now his good friend Spader is back as well? Maybe I don't know. But hats off to the creator Terry Matalas. Now I'm a big fan. I think I've said this before on the show. I know I've said this before on the show. He directed probably one of the finest seasons of Star Trek ever made with Picard season 3. Right. And an exceptional series of television. That season. And he knows storytelling and he knows how to craft entertaining content. And the fact that his instinct is like, well, we've got to bring Ultron back. I think it's great. And we are in the comic book world, Rick. Bad guys never go away. Like they come back eventually. No one really ever dies.
No, correct. And I think this is a great move because no one else can really play that role as Ultron. That voice, Spader's voice is just it suits the character well. I mean, can anyone do it? No, and it makes sense.
Don't you think what was brilliant about Ultron was the fact that his personality was very reminiscent of Tony Stark's? James Spader did a brilliant choice there by trying to make him affable and kind of Tony Stark-ish, except he's evil.
Yeah. So and he's doing that through voice, which is amazing. So
yeah, absolutely. And the fact that we've now got a villain, we've got our hero, we've got our villain for Vision Quest. I think this show is going to be evidence of Marvel slowing down and focusing on quality rather than quantity.
Yeah.
So I'm 100%. Absolutely delighted with this choice. I think it was a great choice.
Well, it's actually good to see Paul Bettany back on the big screen as well, or small screen. I think he's a great actor. I really enjoy him.
He is. He doesn't work enough.
No.
And the famous story about when he got the day he got Vision was that he was meeting with a producer who told him in a meeting that your career is over. It's done. Go back to London. You won't work in Hollywood again. And apparently Paul Bettany stood up and told him, where to go in very explicit means. And he walked out of this meeting and he was so shooken by it, he sat down on the curbside and was like, maybe my career is over. And who calls? The next phone call he gets? Kevin Feige.
Kevin saves the day.
No, wasn't Kevin Feige. It was Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau. Because they were casting Iron Man and they needed a voice for Jarvis.
And they did well, yeah. Look at him go.
And then, and it evolved into being, what was, I watched Infinity War only last weekend, Rick. It's a great movie. It's a good movie to put on a Saturday afternoon while you're doing something. And he's great in it. Vision is wonderful. Paul Bettany is wonderful in that.
He is. He's a great actor and he deserves more. So it'd be good to see more of him on this.
So I'm thrilled about it. Bloody good news, mate. Good news.
Excited. All right, Jace, talk about news. What's in other news? Well, speaking about old and new again, Robert Downey Jr. on the moment Kevin Feige offered him the role of Doctor Doom. Now, I don't know. This just rocked everyone's world when we saw RDJ come out and take that mask off, and everyone just rocked that hall. Mate, this is big news, and we get to finally hear how he became Doctor Doom.
Well, the first thing we should key into, everybody just assumed that this deal had been made very recently.
Mm.
The fact of the matter is, as we'll discover the story, this was a conversation that was had a year ago, Rick.
Yep.
Very shortly after they decided to part ways with Kang as a villain.
Yep.
So, what was really interesting, and I don't want to go read the whole thing, but it was a year ago that him and Feige and his wife, Susan, who's Robert Downey's wife, who is basically changed that man and helps him with his career. But it was they were all having a meeting, and Feige at one point turned around and said, "It just keeps occurring to me that if you were to come back," and apparently his wife was like, "Wait, what? Come back as what?" And Downey continued. He said, and then we both realized over time it was another thing that just disproves any doubt anyone could have about that guy. And he's talking about Feige. He's a very sophisticated, creative thinker. And he goes, how can we not go backwards? How can we not disappoint expectations? How can we continue to beat expectations? And then Feige brought up Victor Von Doom. And apparently Robert Downey Jr. And he goes, I looked into the character and like, wow, he was blown away. And later on he goes, let's get Victor Von Doom right. Let's get that right. So that was the story behind it. It actually started a year ago, Rick. And, Robert Downey, and he's also already involved with the Russo brothers with other productions and stuff like that. They were always tight. So this band of brothers, this band of guys who have decided, like, what are we going to do? And yes, dude, they are dragging up all these guys from the past, but at this point, I support it because the intention is pure. Let's get back to the glory days. Let's get back to people loving what we're putting out, and let's take risks, And RDJ at Victor Von Doom is the biggest risk Marvel has done in a very long time. I would say it's the biggest risk they've taken since Guardians of the Galaxy. Because, nobody knew who Guardians of the Galaxy was. Yeah. They just kind of threw it at us. That was a big risk because people could have rejected it. Doing this with RDJ is their next big risk, which I will believe they will be successful at.
Oh, of course they'll be successful. You got RDJ, you've got the Russo brothers, which, he wouldn't do it without them. He said in an interview that he wouldn't do the movies without them. So, it's a good formula. They're just, and it's really good to see that Marvel are doing this now. They are focusing, like you said before, they're focusing on quality, not quantity. And I like the direction. And I think more and more people are getting out of that Marvel fatigue and getting back into the cinemas and watching the content and loving Marvel at the moment. So I hope we're looking good.
Marvel in the last even year and a bit has made that pathway. I mean, people sometimes forget about Loki season 2.
Yeah.
Loki season 2 is one of the finest seasons Marvel ever put out. Unbelievable show. And even the Marvels, man, which I know made no money and got overly criticized for being super woke and all that, wasn't an awful film. It was very light-hearted and forgettable, but it wasn't a bad movie.
I didn't really enjoy it.
I deny the fact that anyone say it was a bad movie. In fact, I would say I enjoyed that movie more than Captain Marvel itself. So, they're on the way. And, the fact that they're tackling the most important villain in Marvel, if Stan Lee was still with us, I think he would agree. Doctor Doom, the bad guy in the Marvel. Like, he's the big guy. Forget Thanos. Forget Kang. Forget Ultron. Doctor Doom has made the most amount of impact and has been the biggest villain throughout the 60+ year history of Marvel Comics. So, yeah, great news. Another bit of great. It's just all great news today.
There's all great news, and we've got more great news in the next story, Jace. This is, I really dig this story. Ryan Reynolds makes another push for Wesley Snipes Blade sequel. Now, I am so in for this because the success of Deadpool and Wolverine and they listen to Ryan Reynolds. You know what I mean? Marvel are listening to him, and I got a slight chance it might happen.
Yeah. Really well, how do you not listen to someone who's generated over $3.5 billion in the last
correct
the Deadpool films he's done, right? This guy's a making machine and makes smart choices with characters. Look, the Michelle, I can never get it. Ali's choice was a great choice. Academy Award winning actor and all that, but they can't get it right. They've spent 5 years now trying to get it right. And you know what? A Wesley Snipes Blade sequel, that's a big money maker. Everyone's going to want to see it. And Ryan Reynolds coming out and saying we really should be looking at this is smart. And in a world where you can have multiverses, why can't they do as Ryan Reynolds suggests, a Logan type send off for this character? We can do that. You know, there's no reason not to. Wesley Snipes kind of deserves it, I think, to get a film under the belt that's done right. I'd be so down for him. He is the Daywalker. I mean, come on.
He's the OG. And you know what? That was the best cameo and the biggest surprise in Deadpool and Wolverine. When he came out, people went nuts, and we both went, "Holy shit!" Like, we did not expect that, and
that was a massive surprise.
Yeah,
it was a massive surprise.
Get him back.
Like, I challenge anyone not to go back. I mean, there's a couple of key points here. To look at those first two Blade movies and say they're not great movies. They are quality movies. Those first two movies, and the fact that we talk about X-Men starting off the comic book universe, bullshit. It was this one in '98. Came before X-Men, came before Spider-Man.
That's right.
Had the awful responsibility of piggybacking off the disaster was Batman and Robin. And they made a kick-ass cool film for the 90s. It's one of the great 90s movies. So I am, I'm a big supporter. If there's a petition to sign, I will sign it, Rick.
And if anyone turns around and says, "Oh, look at him, he's too old, he can't do it," look at him how he did in Deadpool and Wolverine. He still moved around, he still did everything. Like, he's still got it. Like,
I mean, we see an older, battle-weary Blade.
Hell
There's a lot of meat in that idea, like in the way of storytelling. I'd be down for it for sure.
100%. Cannot wait. If this goes ahead, then it's going to be huge. We will see. If anyone can do it, Ryan Reynolds can do it.
Absolutely.
All right, mate. Let's get into the next story, buddy. Michael Keaton doesn't think that Marvel and DC universes would exist without Batman director Tim Burton. This is a big call.
It's a big call because you're talking about his name up against people like Kevin Feige and things like that. But
Christopher Nolan.
It's a very accurate statement, and I'll tell you what, because you've got to look at the time period that Batman was released. All right, the only other superhero franchise of substance at that time were the Superman films.
Correct. Christopher Reeves.
And by 1987, we had Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, made by Canon. It's a dog shit movie.
It's
an awful movie. It is, and really had basically, I think, killed off the prospect of them doing big budget comic book movies again. The only thing that was probably big around that time that could even compare was a television movie of The Incredible Hulk Returns. No disrespect, but certainly not of the quality of the superhero.
Of course.
But Tim Burton coming out with wasn't just a movie, Rick. I mean, it was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
100%. Like everywhere globally. This is prior internet. This is prior, anything. Social media. This film was as big as it gets. I mean, I had a Batman t-shirt. I bought the soundtrack. I was reading everything about it. I went and saw it 4 times at the cinema in 1989. It was huge, and it spurred on, and it took a while. they had to, make the greatness of Batman and end with the awfulness of Batman and Robin. But it did spurn it on. It said to the studios that if you handle this right, it's a money-making machine.
And it made money.
Oh, it made money, all right. It was one of the biggest. And I think Michael Keaton's right. If Batman was a dud in an alternate universe, would we have gotten any superhero? Would we have gotten a Blade? Probably not. We've then, and if we don't get a Blade, we don't get an X-Men. We don't get an X-Men. We don't get Spider-Man. And then everything just kind of collapses in on itself. So, no, I stand by. I think Michael Keaton is smart. And obviously he's talking about that because he's currently doing his promotion rounds for Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. So, but he came out and said, Tim deserves enormous credit. He changed everything. I can't necessarily say this, but there's a strong possibility there's no Marvel universe, there's no DC universe without Tim Burton. He was doubted and questioned. Remember, he'd made 2 films prior to Batman. One was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then he did Beetlejuice. So Beetlejuice is what got him over the line to get him, But he hadn't done much. It was a big risk. He hasn't got enough credit for going, yeah, that guy, Keaton said. And everybody went, wait, Michael, you worked with him on Beetlejuice, right? But I think what happened was Tim saw Clean and Sober, which is a film Michael Keaton, and I remember seeing that back in 1988, very serious drama about alcoholism. And he goes, I get the credit. I don't know that he got enough credit for making that move. It was a bold move. And what he's referring to is hiring who was Mr. Mum, basically.
Yeah.
And making him a hero, Batman. So no, I think, although it seems a grandiose statement, there's a lot of accuracy behind that, Rick. So yeah, good stuff.
Do you think Tim could do a Batman movie or a DC movie now?
I don't think
with his style.
Think a DC movie. No, because I don't know if it would match with James Gunn's tapestry that he's trying to weave. And James Gunn and Peter Safran have come out very extensively in saying they're creating a tone and style. However, I would love to see another Tim Burton Batman movie with Michael Keaton. Going back to that practical look, he used models so well. The darkness, the look of Gotham City, everything. He created such a striking visual, tonal couple of Batman films. Of course, I would have loved him to come back with Michael Keaton. I would like. I tell you what, I could just order this Batman Beyond, where you got your futuristic Terry Batman, and he's being mentored by Bruce Wayne.
Okay,
that's what I would do. I would say to Tim Burton, please make Batman Beyond.
Well, Tim's watching now, Jay, so we'll just plead the.
Please, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tim. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Speaking of liking and subscribing, guys, I just wanted to remind you, if you like to hit that like and subscribe button for us, and also hit that notification bell so you know we don't miss out on any of our videos. And also you can hear us on audio podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and where all good podcasts are found. All right, Jace, let's get into the train wreck of the week.
This one hurts.
All right, buddy. Who's on the train this week?
It didn't really hurt that much, just because I wasn't a massive fan of the series. But big news.
Big news.
The Acolyte is dead. Yes, I'm talking Star Wars, you nerds. Star Wars series will not return for season 2. This is the worst performing Star Wars series since they started making streaming content, Rick. It was the ratings started soft and just started dropping week after week after week. And the finale, even though it had an uptick, didn't get any higher than 10th place on their Nielsen rating stuff.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. No, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. The other thing is, and I'm going to put it out there.
Uh-oh.
A lot of wokeness, and I know, and I'm not being anti.
Not alone.
All right, I'm not sitting there being anti-woke. All right, okay. I see there's quite a good, there's some good things about being woke, but there's some awful things about being woke too. And the problem is these people feel entitled to come out and put their political, their social agendas and imprint it on this stuff in interviews and stuff like that. Now, I just come from the day is, look, man, your politics are your politics, your choices are your choices. I respect you as a human being. You respect me, but you shouldn't bring it into the workplace where it's going to cost you a job. And that's what happened. They both came out with saying things. And, I don't think Disney was too happy with that, because Disney is starting to back away from some of this stuff because they're losing money, of course, and it's all down to money. And literally they killed her. And that's a small part of it. The real major part of it is what they did with the storyline. The fact that they messed with how the Force works and things like that. It was just overall a disappointing show that was mired in controversy, for whether you like it or not. I would have liked to have watched the season 2 because they were setting up elements that I found interesting, but I'm not surprised. Right? I'm not surprised. When you're a corporation, and this is a hard reality, right? Why invest further in millions of dollars when the show's not performing? If the show's not performing, it's not performing. And secondly, the fact that controversy seems to erupt from some of these people doing press. Rachel Ziegler, like from Snow White, caused an absolute shitstorm by going on, well, this is not your grandma's Snow White. And, a lot of controversy about that.
But the same with Lucasfilm. Come down to their PAs. Like, why are they not,
Yeah, why is it there? That's right. Their publicists going like, hey, man, I'm with you. And most of us are. This is the thing. This is the illusion. Most of us are happy for people to live the lives they want to live. No judgment, man.
Yeah.
No judgment. It's a beautiful thing to express yourself, but you can't expect, if you are going to vocalize that publicly on a big platform, that you may face pushback from it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You can't go into the middle of the city right now, Rick, and just start saying, your political opinion, your social opinion. To not expect someone to walk past and go, shut up, or you're full of crap, because everybody believes in something different.
Correct.
So it's a damn shame, and I wish they would stop this madness of publicists need to tell all their actors, man.
But are they not?
I'm voting Kamala Harris too. I'm doing this. I agree with you, but you're there to plug the fucking show.
Are they not learning from other people's mistakes and seeing what other people are doing, and then they're just continuing to go out there and saying all this? And like you said,
my greatest fear is the pendulum will now swing back the other way in the era of cancellation. And we've seen people get cancelled. That eventually the pendulum is going to swing back the other way. And these people who've been very vocal because they feel like they have a responsibility or a right to do so may face similar consequences. And no matter where your political leanings are, it's just damaging to everybody involved. So if you're getting a job in Hollywood and you're making good money and all that kind of thing, just be aware that if you say something, there may be consequences. And if you're happy to live with that, rock and roll, man. Rock and roll. But be careful, dude.
There's a time and place for everything, I guess. So, but the question is, where does Star Wars go from here now?
Star Wars just keeps piping on what it's doing. It's got Skeleton Crew coming out in December. And, mate, the last thing I was interested was seeing Skeleton Crew, but that trailer completely won me over. It's very much a throwback to Spielberg, Goonies type adventures. And Andor Season 2 comes out early next year. And Andor Season 1 was holy moly fantastic. And then they've got their movie coming out next year. Star Wars is okay at the moment, but that series is gone. it also means it was such an interesting time period to play in that we may not get to see that time period expressed on the small or big screen for a while now until they readjust. But there you go. That's the train wreck of the week.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps that up for this week. Jace, it's been a pleasure as always. Guys, you can catch myself and Jace on this channel every week talking news about everything to do in pop culture. And also, guys, you can also check out all our back catalog, all our videos down below, so check that out. Jace, is there anything else you want to discuss before we go, buddy?
You can find me over on the Captain's Quadrant shirt I'm wearing this morning. Star Trek show. You can find me over the Jason Roy Gaston channel. But most importantly, you'll find me here every week with my good buddy Rick.
Awesome. Guys, we'll catch you next week. Bye for now.
See ya, guys. Thanks for watching. If you could do us a massive favor and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Also, come and check out us on all our social media accounts and keep up to date. And if you're looking for some clothing, you're needing some merch, we've got you covered at the Pop Culture Spread store.